UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy said yesterday that there are no journalists in Gaza.
There are no journalists in Gaza.
Not sure where he got that claim from, but there are journalists in Gaza. So let's ask people at the UK's National March for Palestine who their favourite journalist in Gaza is right now. Who's your favourite journalist in Gaza?
Hind Khouri.
It's got to be Fadi Wahidi. He was directly targeted and we just pray for his recovery.
I have to give a special shout out to Anas al-Sharif.
It's probably the 9-year-old Lama.
I would say it's so hard to choose one because they're all so special in their own way. Bisan for her sense of humour that she brings.
If I had to say my favourite journalist, it had to be Wisan. The fact that she's still on the ground, the fact that she's been recording and capturing all the miscarriages of justice against the Palestinian people from day one, and the fact that she's still going on over 400 days later is hard to imagine.
My favourite journalist in Gaza is Hossam Shabat. He's constantly putting out the truth from what's happening on the ground.
I mean, there's so many to choose from. They all have done so much, risked so much in order to convey what's going on. But I'd have to say one of the ones that has really stuck out to me is Anas al-Sharif.
I really admire all the journalists in Gaza, and especially I admire the children journalists because Israel has a campaign to murder all the journalists in Gaza, and children are having to step up to show us the reality of life in Gaza.
I think when you see children basically holding governments to account more than journalists in the UK, more than journalists in the US, then you have a very strange imbalance of situations. What Mr. Lammy said, that there are no journalists in Gaza, perhaps he forgets that it's his government who's also supplying, the weapons that have been used to kill over 170 of them. We're talking more journalists killed in the Gaza than in the entirety of World War II, than in the Vietnam War.
And I have to also mention Abu Bakr Abid, who is not even meant to be a journalist. He's supposed to be a sports journalist. He's got a fantastic obsession with football.
I look at her videos, I turn to Mutaz's, all of their videos, and they give us strength to get up, to come out here, to keep on going, and we will never ever stop fighting for them. Especially after David Lammy's disgusting, absolutely vile comment about them. They are the only journalists that exist. The Western journalists are not journalists, they are the journalists that exist, for me.
I think we have to give a special mention to all of them, the resilience they've shown. They've shown what journalism actually is in comparison to what we see with the likes of BBC, Sky and co.
This is a systematic approach to almost deleting journalists one by one. But as many people might say, you can't delete the truth. And I think that's what she represents, it's what Mutaza Aziza represents, it's what Shireen Abu Akleh represented. And that spirit continues because, you can't jail justice, you can't arrest a revolution, and you can't stop freedom.
Anas al-Sharif, who in the face of such horrors, in the face of he's witnessing atrocities live, he's witnessing his own colleagues being slaughtered, and still the resilience he shows every single day to report day in, day out, I think it's remarkable. And there is a narrative going around that there are no journalists in Gaza, but actually it's the opposite. There are journalists and they are defining what journalism is and showing to the world what journalism actually is. But unfortunately, the aid being dehumanized, they're being diminished. But without them, without their testimonies, we wouldn't see the slaughter, the horror, the atrocity, the genocide that's taking place. So their voices, their testimonies, there is no words that can describe how important they are.
So the fact that we have the British Foreign Secretary say there are no journalists in Gaza, when we've seen the most raw version of journalism using our phones on the ground, and to deny that is clear complicity and trying to justify, because there is no justification, trying to justify this for the Israeli occupation. It's unacceptable.
Message to David Lammy.
David Lammy's a war criminal. David Lammy should be in The Hague and he should stop lying about the reality of what's happening in Gaza, and he should start listening to the journalists in Gaza as well.
They are all my heroes and they give me hope for the future if these are what the children of the future are.
Anas has lost so much. His house was bombed, his parents were killed, so many of his colleagues and his family were killed, and he still goes on, still refuses to bow down to the Zionist genocide.
And our journalists are some of the most brave people out there, because despite the fact that the ethnic cleansing settler colonial project has intensified further and further with over 14 months of a genocide, our journalists still stand steadfast to report the truth, to highlight the truth about the massacres that are happening, but to highlight the strength of the Palestinian people. And we all learn from their strength, and we will continue the struggle for Palestinian liberation.
So this is the cup that came from Non-Stop, and it has photos of journalists from Gaza. Obviously not all the journalists in Gaza, but it is showing us what true journalism is like. And for any journalists in the West that have not condemned the ongoing genocide in Gaza, they are also complicit.